Hi all, Johnny Matthew here again. Welcome to number 5 of our Troubled Kids Soundbites video series. These are just a series of really brief video summaries of the book chapters in my new book, Working with Troubled Children and Teenagers. So hopefully they'll be helpful to you in their own right, but they might also cause you to think a little bit more about whether the book might be useful to you. So this is number 5. As I say, we've looked at respect. We did 2 short videos about trust and the importance of that as an underlying mechanism in all our relationships with troubled kids. Then we looked at motivation, our motivations for doing the job, and how that bleeds through into the way we do it and can be very motivating for children and young people. And so today we're on number 5, which is about expectations. And I start this chapter really with a lovely quote from Oprah Winfrey, who said, "I believe that everyone is the keeper of a dream, and by tuning in to one another's secret hopes, we can become better friends, better parents, and better partners." And I think I would add on to that, we can become better professionals if we can tune in to the hopes and aspirations of the children we work with. So I guess the starting premise for this chapter really is what I've called the expectation agenda, and that there are 2 possible agendas here, maybe even 3. There's our agenda on what we think children should attain to, what we'd like for them, but then there is also their agenda. They may not obviously and apparently have one, but nonetheless they will have aspirations and certainly potential dreams and hopes for their future. And I guess as an adjunct to that, there may also be an agency aspiration that we can feel pressure from because of our professional roles. So it's about distinguishing between the right agenda to drive the expectations we have for these kids. And it should, I'm arguing, be our focus to help children discover their own dreams and their own hopes, rather than impose our own or those of other people upon them. So that's the first thing, the expectation agenda. And I start by a little section called laying out the ground, which is really, I guess, emphasizing this idea that the homes we grow up in, the parenting experiences that we have, are laden with hopes and expectations of norms, behavioral norms, social norms, aspirational norms. And I guess that's where this fits in, that we all are adults now that have finished that developmental journey and have now started on our own journey in life. But that developmental journey influenced where we came to as adults. It influenced our hopes and our expectations. And that we need to remember for these kids that we're dealing with from very troubled histories, that their own home situations will have impacted them. We need to bear that in mind. They will have impacted them very negatively in some ways, but there will also, amongst that stuff, perhaps be some really positive things which, as part of the healing process, we can help kids hang on to, rather than trying to eradicate that whole thing wholesale and forget that within it, there may have been aspects of their parents or their home life or the expectations that those who cared for them put into them that are really healthy and that we want to hang on to. So in laying out the ground, I'm looking at 2 things really. That is, we should establish the child's capacity and their interests. And these are 2 kind of constituent factors really which might drive their potential. So in terms of capacity, we need to help kids to establish what they might be capable of. So we need to establish their capacity. And I think there's a couple of things here. There's a bit about range and a bit about type. In terms of range, how broad are their abilities, and what kinds of abilities and capacities do they have? Are they physically able? Are they intellectually able? What about confidence? How aspirational are they? Have they got to that stage yet in themselves? There's a whole range of things, and we need in our getting to know them just to note that, so that we can then use that and encourage that as we go forward. So that's about range and I guess breadth of potential and capacity that they may have. But then there's the types of things that they may be interested in, capable of, or want to explore. So what kinds of things do they have talent for? Are they artistic? Are they organizational? Are they quite dramatic? Do they have a penchant for risk taking? Are they very physical? Are they creative? Are they musical? All of these things, types, sit inside the range that we just talked about. And if we, in our getting to know kids, can start to get a handle on some of these things, then we can encourage them down the kind of roads that not only may they be capable of, but also very interested in as well. So we stay within that being unrealistic, but we also encourage what's very possible and what they're interested in, which of course will drive possibility. So I guess the last bit of this is this idea about what they're interested in. What is it that grabs their attention? What kind of things do they show propensity for? Do they have knowledge that they've gained about particular things and subject matter and so on? And if we can trap that, we can marry that with range and type and really start to help them. And then I kind of wanted to finish really this chapter with a sense of aiming high and speaking up to young people. Now, I don't believe that we're all capable of anything we want if we just put our mind to it. I don't accept that. I think we have built-in limitations. However, we don't want to assume we know somebody else's limitations. So we need to speak up to them. So things like using when language rather than if. Now, sometimes it can be good to use if. You know, we don't want to push kids to go to university or do a job they don't want to do. So we don't want to say, you know, if you go to college. We do want to say if you go to college, because we don't want that to be a pressure. But when kids are dealing with difficulty and problems, when can be really helpful. You know, when we get through this really sticky stage that you're in at the moment, you know, when we come out the other side and things are a bit more settled, this kind of language has a positive hue and it's laden with this built-in sense of expectations, and I think that's really key. What's lovely is when kids begin to speak that way themselves and talk more aspirationally. So I think when and not if is good. I think other things we can say is things like I like this about you, or I've noticed you're quite good at that. That really helped me when you described it like that. Picking on things which kids are good at and just praising those things. Many of these kids will have lacked that. They haven't had that essential developmental component whereby their strengths were encouraged, and we can give them that and give them it very easily. A couple of other things I think we can say. We can say thank you when it's appropriate. Thanks for sharing that with me. Thanks for the time we've had today. I enjoyed it. It was good. Thanks for letting me know about that. Simple things, common social courtesies that we'd use with our friends and our own family and our own kids. But it's easy to miss with kids at work or kids that we care for professionally. Sorry, you know, we double book, we drop the ball, we make a mistake, we speak inappropriately, we're a bit irritable. We say, listen, I'm sorry, that I was out of order there. I'm sorry, I'm late, I got delayed, I double booked, I'm not going to be able to make it, I'm really sorry, I know this puts you out. And to speak up to children and young people in the way that we would to colleagues and so on. So then lastly, I think, which takes us back to the beginning, is this idea of expecting the unexpected from kids. So we can stay child-centered is really important. This is their potential we're trying to realize, not ours. So our expectations and the expectations we encourage should orientate around that. Becoming a success spotter, be an encourager, looking out for the positive, looking out for even the tiniest incremental shift in the right direction, and highlighting that and making that a big deal can be a real fuel for somebody's battle to move their life on. Seize opportunities to praise constantly is really important. And I guess that's summed up by the last thing, which is encourage, encourage, encourage. Encouragement is food for the soul, and these kids need that. They need that, and if we can be an agent of that, we're putting fuel in their tank to drive their expectations and their aspirations, and I think that can be great for these kids. So there we are. Number 5, expectations. Chapter summary from Working with troubled children and teenagers. Thanks for listening, really appreciate it. Leave a comment if you want to. I'd be glad to open a conversation with you. If you're interested in the book, nip over to johnnymatthew.com/book, and there's more information there, or you can search it on Amazon or the jkp.com website, which is the publisher's website. So thanks for listening, and look out for the next one, which will be up in a week or so's time. And in the meantime, keep going. These kids need you to keep going. You're doing a great job. Hang in there, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.